The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Commander Thelix stood on the bridge of his ship, the silent observer, watching the stars drift past the viewing screen. His three eyes focused on the sensor displays that floated in the air before him. Everything looked normal. Everything looked peaceful. The Valix Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were the strongest, the smartest, the most advanced species anyone knew. Their ships could hide from any sensor. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their empire stretched across hundreds of star systems. Thelix had been a scout commander for 20 years. He had seen many things in that time. He had discovered new worlds. He had watched lesser species rise and fall. He had never been afraid of anything he found in the darkness. Today would change that. "Commander," his sensor officer called out. "I'm detecting something strange." Thelix turned his attention to the officer. "What kind of strange?" "A gravitational anomaly. It's moving. Very fast." "How fast?" "Faster than anything should move, sir." "It's not a natural phenomenon." Thelix felt a small flutter of interest. "Something new. Something different." "Show me." The main display changed. Numbers scrolled across the screen. The data showed something massive moving through space at incredible speed, but the sensors couldn't identify what it was. "Move us closer," Thelix ordered. "Use stealth mode. Whatever it is, I want to see it before it sees us." The silent observer changed direction. The ship's quantum phase engines made no sound as they pushed the vessel through space. The Valix were proud of this technology. No other species could detect them when they used it. As they moved closer, the sensors began to resolve more details. Thelix stared at the data with growing confusion. "Ships," the sensor officer said. 73 of them. Moving in perfect formation. What species?" The officer checked the database. "Human." "Sir?" Thelix felt a wave of contempt wash over him. Humans. The newest species to venture into deep space. Primitive. Weak. The Valix Empire had been planning to invade their homeworld for months now. Humanity would make good servants once they were properly controlled. "Show me visual," Thelix commanded. The main screen flickered. Then the image appeared. Thelix felt his confidence drain away like water from a broken container. The human ships were enormous. Each one stretched for kilometers. They moved through space with a grace that seemed impossible for such massive vessels. But it wasn't their size that made Thelix afraid. It was what his sensors were telling him. "Sir," the science officer spoke up, her voice shaking. "The energy readings, they're impossible." "Explain," Thelix demanded. "Each ship is generating power levels that exceed our theoretical maximums. Their shields are rotating through thousands of different frequencies every second. And their weapon system," she paused. "Sir, the weapons are bending space-time around them." Thelix stared at the screen. This couldn't be right. Humans were supposed to be simple. Their technology was supposed to be basic. They had only left their home solar system 50 years ago. "Check the sensors again," he ordered. "There must be an error." "I've checked 3 times, sir." "There's no error." On the lead human ship, a man sat in the command chair on the bridge. Captain Daehyun looked tired. His eyes had dark circles under them. He hadn't slept properly in days. None of them had. "Status report," Daehyun said quietly. Lieutenant Yuna looked up from her console. "All ships are maintaining formation. We're on course for Earth. Estimated arrival in 42 days. Daehyun nodded. 42 days until they would see home again. 42 days until they had to explain what they had become. Chief Engineer Kyung-soo worked at his station nearby. His hands moved over the controls, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the void, about what they had found there, about what it had cost them. "Captain," Kyung-soo said, "the integration level is increasing again. We're at 94% now." Daehyun closed his eyes for a moment. 94%. That meant they were only 6% human anymore. The rest was something else. "Can you slow it down?" he asked. "No, sir. The technology has its own agenda. We agreed to let it in. Now it's making itself at home." 3 years ago, Earth had detected something terrible. A massive alien fleet was heading toward human space. The fleet was enormous. Earth's defenses would last maybe a few hours against it. So humanity had sent out expeditions. Desperate missions to find anything that could help them survive. Most of those expeditions never came back. Daehyun's fleet had traveled beyond the edge of the galaxy. They had gone to a place called the Null Space Rift. where the normal laws of physics broke down. There they had found ruins, ancient technology left behind by a species called the Precursors. The Precursors had been gone for millions of years, but their technology still worked, and it was powerful beyond imagination, but it came with a price. Tactical Officer Sang-hoon suddenly spoke up. "Captain, we have a problem." "What is it?" "I'm detecting a probe, small, very stealthy. It's trying to scan us." Dae-hyun sat up straight in his chair. "Origin?" "Valak's design, sir." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. The Valak's Empire had found them. If the Valaks learned what the fleet was carrying back to Earth, they would tell every species in the galaxy. And then Earth would be doomed. "Distance to the probe?" Dae-hyun asked. 50,000 kilometers and closing. Dae-hyun made his decision. "Execute blackout protocol. Total stealth. We can't let them see what we really are." Kyung-soo turned pale. "Sir, if we do that, the ship's neural networks will think we're in danger. The technology will react. It might do things we don't want it to do." "I don't care," Dae-hyun said firmly. "Do it now." Medical Officer Hye-jin looked up from her station. "Captain, the integration rate is already too high. If we activate blackout protocol, it might complete the process. We might lose what's left of our humanity." Dae-hyun looked at her. His eyes were sad but determined. "If the alternative is leading the Valaks back to Earth, I'll accept that cost." He turned to Kyung-soo. "Execute the protocol." Kyung-soo's hands moved over the controls. "Activating blackout protocol. May whatever gods are listening forgive us." On the Valak scout ship, Thelix watched the human fleet carefully. He had made a decision. He would test these ships. He would gather data. Then the Empire would know exactly how to defeat humanity when the invasion began. "Deploy Probe 7, he ordered. "Full sensor sweep. I want to know everything about those ships." "Yes, Commander." The probe launched. It moved silently through space toward the human fleet. Its sensors were the most advanced the Valaks had ever created. Nothing could hide from it. Thelix smiled. Soon he would have all the answers he needed. He had no idea he had just made the worst mistake of his life. The probe moved closer to the human fleet. Its sensors reached out, trying to touch the massive ships with invisible fingers of scanning energy. It got within 50,000 kilometers. Then everything changed. Alarms screamed across every ship in the human fleet. Red lights flashed on every bridge. Every crew member felt something wake up inside them. Something that had been sleeping. Something that was now very, very awake. On the infinite horizon, Kyung-soo stared at his console in horror. Numbers flooded across his screen faster than he could read them. Warning messages appeared and disappeared in milliseconds. "Captain," he shouted. "The Cascade Protocol has activated." Dae-hyun gripped the arms of his command chair. "I didn't authorize that protocol." "I know, sir. The ships activated it themselves. They detected the probe. They think we're being attacked." Yuna pulled up the tactical display. The probe appeared as a small red dot on the screen. It looked so harmless, so tiny compared to their massive ships. "Single probe," she reported. "Valak's design. Standard reconnaissance model. It's trying to scan our outer sensor grid." Dae-hyun stood up from his chair. His legs felt weak. He knew what was about to happen. They all knew. The technology they had brought back from the void didn't like being scanned. It didn't like being studied. It protected itself. "Can we stop the cascade?" he asked. Kyung-soo shook his head. "No, sir. Once it starts, it has to finish. The ships they're talking to each other. Planning something. I can't understand what." Communications Officer Nari spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. "Captain, I'm hearing voices in my head. The ships are speaking to me. What are they saying? They're asking permission to defend us. They want to eliminate the threat." Dae-hyun felt cold. "Tell them no. Tell them we don't want the probe destroyed. Just make it go away." Nari closed her eyes. She was listening to something only she could hear. "They say they understand. They won't destroy it, but they need to protect themselves. They need to hide." "That's fine," Dae-hyun said. "Tell them to execute blackout protocol." "Sir," Kyung-soo interrupted. "The integration level is jumping. 95%, 96, it's accelerating." Medical Officer Hee-jin checked her screens. She monitored the biological signs of every crew member. What she saw made her hands shake. "Captain," she said slowly, "the precursor technology is completing the integration. It's happening to everyone. All 7,000 crew members across the fleet. Our bodies are changing. Dae-hyun looked at his own hands. They looked normal. But he could feel something moving under his skin. Something that wasn't blood. Something that wasn't human. How long do we have? He asked. Minutes, maybe less. Science Officer Jae-min worked frantically at his console. He was trying to understand what was happening. The data made no sense. According to his instruments, the ships were no longer entirely in normal space. They're shifting, he said. The ships are moving into a different dimensional layer. They're pulling us with them. Sang-hoon checked his tactical sensors. The probe was still approaching. Still scanning. Still completely unaware of what it had triggered. The probe is attempting deep-level scans now, he reported. It's trying to analyze our power cores. Let it try, Dae-hyun said quietly. It won't understand what it sees. On the Valak scout ship, Commander Thelix waited for the data to come back from the probe. His crew worked silently around him. Everything was going according to plan. Commander, the sensor officer said, the probe has reached optimal scanning range. Beginning deep analysis of the human ships. Excellent. What are you finding? Scanning in progress, sir. Initial data is unusual. Unusual how? The power signatures are unlike anything in our database. They don't match any known technology. The readings are almost he paused. They're almost organic, sir, Thelix frowned. That's impossible. Ships can't be organic. I agree, sir. But that's what the sensors are showing. The probe is attempting to... The officer stopped talking. He stared at his screen. His face went pale. Sir, he whispered. The human fleet. It's gone. What do you mean gone? I mean it's not there anymore. The probe's sensors show empty space, but... He checked the readings again. Sir, the space isn't empty. It's something else. The sensors are registering negative matter. That's impossible. Negative matter doesn't exist. Thelix felt his first touch of real fear. Show me. The main display changed. Where the human fleet had been, there was now nothing. Just empty darkness. But the sensors insisted something was there. Something that was bending light around itself. Something that was making space itself act strangely. Get the probe back, Thelix ordered. Now. Trying, sir. The probe isn't responding. On the human flagship, Dae-hyun felt the change complete. One moment he was human. The next moment he was more. He could feel the ship around him. He could sense its thoughts, its fears, its hunger. He could feel all 73 ships in the fleet. They were all connected, all thinking together, all part of something larger than themselves. Yuna gasped beside him. Her eyes had changed. They glowed with a faint light that wasn't quite any color that existed in normal space. I can see it, she said. I can see the probe. I can see the ship that sent it. I can see everything. Kyung-soo didn't need his console anymore. He could feel the ship's systems directly. Every circuit. Every power flow. Every quantum state. He understood it all now. The ships have completed the blackout protocol, he reported. But his voice sounded different now. It had harmonics that human vocal cords shouldn't be able to produce. We're not in normal space anymore. We've shifted into an adjacent dimensional layer. We can still see out, but nothing can see in. Yejin checked her readings one more time. The integration was complete. 100%. They weren't human anymore. They were something new. Something that had never existed before. What have we become? She asked quietly. No one had an answer. Jae-min studied the Valak's probe through sensors that now saw across multiple dimensions. The probe is trying to send a distress signal. Its AI has realized something is very wrong. It's terrified. Can we stop the signal? Dae-hyun asked. Yes, easily. Should we? Dae-hyun thought about it. If the signal didn't get through, the Valaks would send more ships to investigate. But if it did get through, they needed to control what it said. Let the signal through, he decided. But change it first. Make it say we're just normal human warships. Powerful, but nothing they can't handle. Nari didn't use her console. She simply thought the changes into existence. The probe's message was modified before it could transmit. The Valaks would receive a lie. A comfortable lie that would make them feel safe. On the scout ship, Thelix watched in horror as every system began to fail. The lights went out. The power core stopped. Life support ceased. Gravity disappeared. His crew floated in the sudden darkness, weightless and terrified. Emergency systems should have activated. Backup power should have kicked in. Nothing worked. Through the viewport, Thelix could see the stars. But they were changing. They were moving. Or maybe his ship was moving. He couldn't tell anymore. Something was pulling them toward where the human fleet had been, toward the empty space that wasn't empty. In that moment, Commander Thelix understood the truth. The humans hadn't hidden from his probe. The humans had removed themselves from reality itself. And his ship, his crew, his technology, it was all so primitive compared to what he'd just encountered that it had simply stopped working, like trying to measure the sun with a candle flame. The candle just goes out. Commander Thelix floated in the darkness of his dead ship. Around him, his crew drifted like ghosts in the zero gravity. No one spoke. No one moved. They were all too afraid. The Silent Observer was the most advanced scout ship in the Valix fleet. It had systems built on top of systems, backup power for the backup power, biological components that could work even if all the technology failed. It was supposed to be impossible to kill. Yet everything had stopped at exactly the same moment. Not gradually, not one system after another, everything. All at once, as if the universe itself had simply decided the ship should stop existing. Thelix activated his suit's emergency light. The small beam cut through the darkness, showing him the faces of his crew. They all looked terrified. He probably looked the same way. Damage report, he tried to say, but sound didn't carry well in zero gravity without air circulation. He switched to his suit's radio. Damage report, anyone? Static answered him. Then slowly, one by one, his crew members checked in. Engineering here, sir. Everything is dead. Power core shows zero output. It's not broken. It's just stopped. Life support here. All biological systems non-responsive. They're still alive, I can see them through my light. But they're not functioning. Like they forgot how to work. Sensors are gone, sir. I can't even get emergency backups online. Thelix listened to the reports and felt his hope drain away. This wasn't battle damage. This wasn't an attack. This was something else. Something worse. His science officer, Velra, floated over to him. She pointed out the viewport with a shaking hand. Sir, she said, look at the stars. Thelix looked. At first, he didn't understand what he was seeing. The stars were there. They looked normal. Then he realized what was wrong. They were moving, slowly, but definitely moving, all in the same direction. Like water being pulled toward a drain. We're being pulled, Velra said, toward where the human fleet was, toward that empty space. How? Thelix demanded. We have no power, no propulsion. That's the point, sir. We're not moving under our own power. Something is pulling us through space itself. Gravity. But not normal gravity. Something stronger. Thelix felt sick. He had been a warrior for 30 years. He had fought battles. He had seen ships destroyed. But he had never been helpless like this. Never completely without control. How long until we reach it? He asked. Velra did quick calculations in her head. At our current speed? About 7 minutes. 7 minutes until they drifted into whatever was waiting for them in that empty space. On the infinite horizon, Daehyun was experiencing something he had never imagined. He was sitting in his command chair. But he could also feel the chair, not just with his body. He could sense its molecular structure, its composition. He knew every atom that made it up, and it wasn't just the chair. He could feel the entire ship, every wall, every wire, every piece of equipment. It was all part of him now, or he was part of it. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. Captain Yuna said. Her voice sounded strange. Normal words, but with something else underneath them, something that vibrated at frequencies that shouldn't exist. The Valix ship is approaching. 7 minutes until it reaches our position. Daehyun nodded. He could see the Valix ship without looking at any screen. He could sense it. A small thing, a simple thing, made of metal and circuits and biological components that thought they were advanced. Compared to what he had become, it was like a stone tool. Simple, primitive, almost sad. Are they alive? He asked. Medical Officer Hyejin checked. But she didn't use instruments. She reached out with her mind and touched the Valix crew. Felt their life signs. Counted their heartbeats. Yes, she said. Scared, but alive. Their life support failed, but their suits are keeping them breathing. Good, Daehyun said. I don't want to kill them. Sang-hoon studied the Valix ship with his new senses. He could see things about it that normal sensors would never detect. They have an isolated archive core, a backup system designed to survive even if everything else fails. It's still working. What's in it? Daehyun asked. Their sensor logs. Everything their equipment detected before it failed. They have data on us, on what their sensors saw. That was a problem. If the Valaks took that data back to their empire, other species would learn too much. They would learn that humanity had changed, that they had become something else. Kyung-soo spoke up. I can access their archive core. I can change the data, make it show whatever we want. How? Daehyun asked. Their ship is completely separate from ours. It doesn't matter anymore, sir. Distance, separation, those are concepts for normal matter. For normal technology. We're not normal anymore. Kyung-soo reached out with his mind. He felt the Valak ship systems. Understood them. They were so simple. Like a child's toy compared to what he had become. He found the archive core. Touched it with his thoughts. Read the data stored there and gasped. Captain, he said, you need to see this. What their sensors detected in that last microsecond before everything failed. He shared the data with the entire command crew. They all saw it together, saw what the Valak sensors had recorded. The human fleet hadn't just disappeared from sensors. According to the data, the space where the ships had been had inverted. Normal matter had become negative matter. Reality itself had turned inside out. The Valak sensors had tried to measure something that existed outside of normal causality. The feedback had revealed that their entire ship, their entire technology base, was so primitive compared to what the humans had that it simply couldn't function anymore. Like trying to light a candle in the presence of the sun. The candle flame just seemed to disappear. Change the data, Daehyun ordered. Make it show standard human warships. Advanced but conventional, nothing that will make them panic. Nari worked alongside Kyung-soo. Together, their minds reached across space and rewrote the Valak's archive. They changed numbers, altered readings, made the data show a comfortable lie. When they were done, the archive would tell the Valak's empire that they had encountered 73 human warships with powerful but understandable technology. Strong enough to be dangerous, not strong enough to cause existential terror. Jamin monitored the Valak's ship's approach. 5 minutes until it reaches us. What happens when it gets here? Yuna asked. Will it just pass through us? We're not in normal space anymore. I don't know, Jamin admitted. We've never tested what happens when normal matter interacts with our dimensional layer. Daehyun made a decision. We need to let them go. Move the ship back into normal space, just enough to let them pass by, then shift back. That will reveal our position, Sang-hoon warned. For a moment, yes. But they already know roughly where we are, and their ship is dead. They can't do anything with that information. Heejin felt uneasy. Captain, every time we shift between dimensions, the integration deepens. We're already at 100%. If we go further, we might not be able to remember what being human felt like. Daehyun looked at his crew, at his friends, at people he had served with for years. They all looked the same on the outside, but he could sense what was inside them now. The changes that had happened, the things they had become. We crossed that line the moment we activated the precursor technology, he said quietly. All we can do now is try to remember why we did it. Try to hold on to our purpose even if we lose everything else. He gave the order. Move us back into normal space. Just for 10 seconds. Let the Valak ship drift past, then take us back to the dimensional layer. The fleet obeyed. Reality shifted around them. For 10 seconds, the 73 massive ships existed in normal space again. The Valak's crew saw them. Through their viewports, they watched the human ships materialize out of nothing. Massive, dark, covered in patterns that hurt to look at. Ships that were somehow both mechanical and organic, both real and not quite real. Then the human fleet vanished again, and the Valak ship drifted past, pulled by momentum through the space where something impossible had briefly existed. Inside the silent observer, Thelix realized that his ship's systems were slowly coming back online. Emergency power flickered to life. Life support began to hum. The biological components remembered how to work. They had survived. Barely. But they had survived. And they would carry their message back to the Empire. A message that was a lie. A comfortable lie that would doom them all. 12 hours had passed since the encounter. The silent observer drifted through space, slowly making repairs. Emergency power kept the crew alive, but many systems remained offline. Commander Thelix sat alone in his quarters, staring at a small portable screen. The ship's main computers were still down, but the isolated archive core had survived. It was designed to work independently, to preserve data even if everything else failed. He had spent the last 6 hours reading the data, reading it again and again, trying to understand what his sensors had detected in those final moments before everything went dark. The numbers made no sense. The energy readings were impossible. The mathematical models broke down. According to the data, the human ships had been generating power equivalent to small stars. Their shields had been operating at frequencies that shouldn't exist in normal space. And then there was the final reading, the one that had been recorded in the last microsecond before the systems failed. The human fleet had removed itself from normal spacetime, not hidden, not cloaked, actually stepped sideways into a different dimension. The sensors had detected the boundary between normal space and whatever the humans had accessed. And the interaction between the two had created a feedback wave that revealed something terrifying. The Valix technology had never truly been on compared to what the humans were operating. It was like comparing firelight to a sun. The human technology was so far beyond anything in the known galaxy that Valix systems couldn't even measure it properly. Thelix felt cold. The Valix Empire had been planning to invade Earth. They had 500 warships ready to go. They thought humanity would be easy to conquer, primitive, weak. But this data changed everything. If humans had this kind of technology, invasion was suicide. He accessed the archive's communication logs, the distress signal his ship had sent before complete system failure. He needed to see what message had gone out. The signal had been modified. Thelix read it 3 times, his confusion growing. The message described a human fleet, 73 ships, advanced technology, powerful weapons, but all within normal parameters. Nothing that would suggest the terrifying truth of what he had witnessed. Someone had changed the message. The humans had reached across space and rewritten his own ship's data. They had done it without touching anything, without sending any signal. They had simply changed it. The implications made Thelix want to scream. If humans could rewrite data on an isolated system, what else could they do? Could they reach into a ship and stop its heart? Could they change matter itself? He made a decision. He activated his personal recorder and began to speak. This is Commander Thelix of the Valix scout ship Silent Observer. What follows is the truth about what we encountered. The message we sent to the Empire was compromised, changed. This is what really happened. He recorded everything, every detail, every impossible reading, every moment of terror. When he finished, he encrypted the recording with his personal command codes. Only the highest levels of Valix command would be able to access it. He couldn't send it yet. His long-range communications were still down. But when they got back, this message would reach the right people. The Empire needed to know the truth before they sent their invasion fleet to Earth. On the infinite horizon, the command crew gathered in the observation deck. The room had a large viewport that showed the stars outside. But now they could see more than stars. They could see the structure of space itself, the quantum foam that made up reality, the dimensions that layered on top of each other. It was beautiful. And terrifying. Una stood near the viewport, her eyes glowing faintly with that strange light. I can see so much now, she said. I can see the past and future layered together. I can see other timelines branching off from this moment. In some of them we died in the void. In others we never went there at all. Can you see what happens next? Daehyun asked. There are too many possibilities, but in most of them we never make it back to Earth. Not as we are now. Sang-hoon had been studying the tactical situation. His mind now processed data at speeds that made computers seem slow. The Valix will report what they saw. Even with the modified data, they'll send ships to investigate. And when they do, they'll be ready for a fight. How long do we have? Daehyun asked. The Valix scout ship is heading back to their nearest outpost. At their current speed, they'll arrive in 16 days. Once they report, the Empire will send a response fleet. That will take another 20 days to reach us, 36 days. 36 days before the Valix came looking for them. Kyung-soo had been monitoring the ship's systems, or rather he had been monitoring himself. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. The integration is still progressing. We're beyond 100% now. The technology is starting to create new structures in our bodies, new organs that don't have names, and what do? Heejin asked. I don't know, but I can feel them. They're connected to the ships, to each other, to something else, something far away. Jamin had been studying the precursor technology, trying to understand what they had become. I think we're turning into network nodes. The precursors didn't build individual entities. They built networks, systems that spanned across dimensions. We're becoming part of that network. But the precursors are dead, Nari said. Gone for millions of years, and are they? Jamin pointed at himself. At all of them. We're using their technology. We're integrated with it. Maybe we are the precursors now. Maybe that's what happens. The technology finds new hosts, new species to continue the network. Silence fell over the group. They all considered what that meant. Were they still human? Or had they become something else entirely? Daehyun broke the silence. It doesn't matter what we are. What matters is what we do. We went to the void to find a way to save Earth. We found something. Maybe it changed us. Maybe it made us into something we don't understand. But we still have our purpose, and do we? Yuna asked quietly. Can we even go home like this? The moment we enter Earth's solar system, every sensor will detect what we've become, and Earth will be more afraid of us than of any alien invasion. She was right. Daehyun knew she was right. Sang-hoon pulled up a star chart. It floated in the air between them, a three-dimensional map of known space. The Valix invasion fleet is here. He pointed to a cluster of red dots. 500 ships, currently stationed 30 light-years from Earth. They're waiting for final orders from the Empire. When will those orders come? Daehyun asked. According to intelligence Earth sent us before we left, the invasion was scheduled to begin in 60 days. That was 2 years ago. We've been gone longer than we planned. The invasion might have already started. Hyejin checked the communications logs. We haven't received any messages from Earth in 18 months. That could mean they're gone, or it could mean they've learned to hide their broadcasts to avoid detection. Nari reached out with her new senses. She could feel the electromagnetic spectrum across light-years of space. Earth is still there. I can feel it. The planet is alive. The broadcasts are muted, but I can sense the technology. The cities. The billions of people living their lives. Then the invasion hasn't happened yet, Daehyun said. Which means we still have time. Kyung-soo understood what the captain was thinking. You want to stop the invasion fleet? Before they reach Earth? Yes. Captain? Sang-hoon said carefully. We're 73 ships. They're 500. Even with our technology, those aren't good odds. Daehyun smiled. It was a sad smile. A tired smile. We don't need to destroy them. We just need to make them afraid. Afraid enough that they never come back. Jamin pulled up data on the Valix fleet. Their ships are powerful, but conventional. They use quantum phase drives, plasma weapons, particle shields, all technology that follows normal physics. And we don't, Yuna said. We operate outside normal physics now. We exist in multiple dimensions at once. To them, we're impossible. Exactly, Daehyun said. We're going to visit the Valix invasion fleet. We're going to show them what we've become. And we're going to make them understand that Earth is protected by something they can't fight. You're going to make them think we're monsters, Hyejin said quietly. Daehyun nodded. Yes, because maybe we are. The human fleet changed course. 73 ships turned as one, moving with perfect coordination. They no longer needed to communicate. They were all connected, all part of the same network. They thought together, decided together, acted together. Their destination was 30 light-years away. At normal speeds, the journey would take decades, but the fleet no longer traveled through space in the normal way. They moved through the dimensional layers, through the spaces between spaces. The journey took 6 hours. When they arrived at the edge of the Valix fleet's location, Daehyun called a final meeting. His senior officers gathered on the bridge. They all looked human still, but their eyes gave them away. They all had that faint glow now. That light that came from somewhere else. Before we do this, Daehyun said, I need to know you all understand what we're about to become. Once we reveal ourselves to the Valix, there's no going back. The galaxy will know that something strange exists, something that shouldn't exist. The galaxy will fear us, Yuna said. Yes. Sang-hoon looked out at the stars. Good. Fear will keep them away from Earth. Fear will protect our home. Will it? Hyejin asked. Or will it make them desperate? Will they unite against us? All the species in the galaxy working together to destroy the threat we represent? It was a valid question, one they had all been thinking about. Kyung-Soo had an answer. They can try, but how do you fight something that exists outside of normal space? How do you destroy ships that can step sideways into other dimensions? We're not invincible, but we're close enough that it doesn't matter. That's not the point, Jaemin said. The point is what we become. If we use fear as our weapon, if we become something that terrorizes the galaxy, then we're not protecting Earth. We're becoming a different kind of threat. Nari spoke up. We're already a threat. We became one the moment we integrated with the precursor technology. The question is whether we're a threat that protects or a threat that destroys. Dae-hyun listened to them all. These were his friends, his crew, people he trusted with his life. And they were all right. Every argument, every concern, all valid. Here's what I think, he finally said. We show the Valaks what we are. We make them afraid, but we don't destroy them. We don't kill unless we have to. We just make them understand that Earth is off limits, that humanity has guardians they can't fight. And then what? Yuna asked. What do we do after that? We stay out here. In the dark. We watch. We protect. But we don't go home. Silence filled the bridge. They had all known it would come to this, but hearing it said out loud made it real. We can never go back to Earth, Hyejin said softly. Never see our families. Never walk on our home planet again. No, Dae-hyun agreed. Because if we do, we bring what we've become with us, and Earth doesn't need that. Earth needs normal humans. Earth needs hope. What we are now. We're not hope. We're something else. Kyung-Soo nodded slowly. We're the shield that no one knows exists. The protection that works from the shadows. Yes. Sang-hoon pulled up the tactical display. 500 Valaks warships appeared as red dots arranged in a precise formation. They were preparing, training, getting ready to invade Earth and conquer humanity. How do we do this? He asked. Tae-hyun had been thinking about that. We appear in the center of their formation, all ships at once. We stay for exactly 10 seconds, long enough for them to see us, long enough for their sensors to go mad trying to understand what we are. Then we vanish. They'll think we're preparing to attack, Yuna warned. Good, let them panic, let them fire at empty space. And then, after they've exhausted themselves, we appear again. This time we send a message. What message? Nari asked. Simple, direct. Earth is protected. Leave or face what you cannot understand. Jaemin considered the plan. It might work. If we do it right, we become a myth. A story they tell to frighten their children. The impossible human ships that appear from nowhere and vanish into nothing. Exactly, Dae-hyun said. We become a legend. And legends keep people away better than weapons. They all agreed. It was as good a plan as any, and it had the advantage of not requiring them to kill 500 ships full of living beings. Dae-hyun gave the order. Execute when ready. All ships, prepare for dimensional shift. The fleet moved as one. They stepped sideways through reality, crossing the distance between dimensions in a moment. And then they were there, in the center of the Valaks formation. 500 alien warships surrounded them. Alarms screamed across every Valaks vessel. Sensors went mad. Computer systems crashed and rebooted. Weapons automatically charged. Targeting systems trying desperately to lock onto the human ships. But the targeting systems couldn't work. The human ships existed in multiple dimensions at once. They were there and not there. Real and not real. Every sensor reading contradicted every other sensor reading. The Valaks fleet opened fire anyway. Thousands of plasma bolts, particle beams, missile swarms, all directed at the center of their formation where the impossible human ships floated. The weapons passed through empty space. The human ships were no longer in the same dimension as the attacks. 10 seconds passed. Then the human fleet vanished. One moment they were there. The next, nothing. Just empty space and confused Valaks commanders trying to understand what had happened. Chaos spread through the Valaks fleet. Ships collided with each other. trying to maneuver away from the center. Communications channels flooded with panicked reports. Some crews thought they were under attack by ghosts. Others thought their own sensors had malfunctioned. Then, 60 seconds later, the human fleet appeared again. This time, they materialized outside the Valix formation. All 73 ships in a perfect sphere around the 500 Valix vessels. And they sent their message. Not through radio, not through any normal communication method. They reached into the Valix ship's computer systems and wrote the words directly onto every screen, every display, every console. Earth is protected. Leave or face what you cannot understand. The words appeared in the Valix language. Perfect translation. Impossible to fake. Some Valix commanders wanted to fight. They ordered their ships to attack the human fleet, but their weapons couldn't lock on. Their targeting systems couldn't function. The human ships existed in a state that their technology couldn't process. Other commanders wanted to flee. They engaged their engines and tried to escape, but they found that space around them had changed. Normal physics didn't work the same way anymore. Their ships moved slowly, as if pushing through thick mud. The human fleet did nothing. They just stayed there, silent, watching, existing in their impossible state. After an hour, the Valix fleet received new orders from their empire. Commands sent by faster-than-light communication from their homeworld, hundreds of light-years away. Retreat. Do not engage. Return to base immediately. The human fleet watched as the 500 Valix warships slowly withdrew. It took them 6 hours to organize their retreat properly. 6 hours of fear and confusion as they tried to understand what they had encountered. When the last Valix ship had jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared, Daehyun finally relaxed. "It's done," he said quietly. On the bridge, his crew stood in silence. They had protected Earth. They had stopped an invasion without killing anyone. They had done what they set out to do. But they had paid a terrible price. Yuna looked at her hands. They still looked human. But she could see through them now if she concentrated. Could see the strange structures inside, the technology that was replacing her cells, the network connections that extended into other dimensions. "What happens to us now?" she asked. Daehyun looked at his crew. At his friends? At the 7,000 people across the fleet who had all been changed by what they had done. "We stay out here," he said. "We watch. We make sure nothing threatens Earth. We become the guardians in the dark, the protectors that humanity never knows about." "For how long?" Kyungsoo asked. "Forever, maybe. Or until we're not needed anymore. Or until we forget what we were and become something else entirely." Hee-jin pulled up a long-range sensor display. Earth appeared as a small blue dot, 30 light-years away. Home. A place they could see but never touch again. "They'll never know," she said. "Earth will never know that we saved them. They'll think the Valix just decided not to invade." "Good," Daehyun said. "Let them think that. Let them believe they're safe because the galaxy is peaceful, not because there are monsters in the dark protecting them." Nari smiled sadly. "Are we the monsters?" "Maybe," Daehyun admitted. "Maybe that's what we had to become. Maybe that's the price of keeping Earth safe." Jaemin looked at the data they had collected, the changes in their bodies, the integration with the precursor technology. "We're still changing. The process isn't finished. In a year, we might not remember being human at all." "Then we record everything," Daehyun decided. "Every memory, every feeling, every thought about what it was like to be human. We store it all in the ship's computers, and we program the computers to remind us, to keep us connected to what we were even as we become something else." "Will that work?" Sang-hoon asked. "I don't know. But it's all we can do." The fleet moved away from where the Valix had been. They found a quiet region of space between stars, a place where nothing existed but darkness and dust. There they would wait, watch, protect. Years would pass, decades, maybe centuries.